Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and I'm an elementary music teacher full-time, and I also have more than one side hustle over on the side. My main thing is that I have a business where I sell teaching resources for elementary music teachers, and then I also have a YouTube channel, and I have this YouTube channel, and I do all of the things. And because of that, I feel very qualified in helping any of you who have a side hustle that are maybe feeling a little bit frazzled about the whole thing. And so in this video, we're gonna be talking all about how to stay sane when you have a side hustle and a full-time job, and there's just a lot going on, and there's a lot of things that you're balancing. So if that sounds good to you, first of all, hit the subscribe button, because on this channel we talk about side hustles and we do vlogs, and I show you like literally behind the scenes into how I make everything work and all of that good stuff on this channel. So hit the subscribe button if that sounds good to you, and let's get started. All right, today I have 8 main tips that are going to help you if you are a side hustler and you need a little bit of help, a little bit of just something, because there's just a lot going on and I totally understand. So let's jump right on in. Number 1 is to create boundaries at work. So this really mostly applies to time boundaries. I'm a teacher, and teachers have this thing where they have like a good, I don't know, 15 hours of work that they get maybe 3 hours to do it in. So if you're not a teacher, basically a teacher's day is structured where they are teaching all the things, and then they usually get like a 30 to a minute to an hour planning period. A lot of times that's taken up by meetings and things that they need to do, like, again, meeting with parents, talking to parents, that kind of stuff. But that's, essentially when they're supposed to do all the grading, all the planning, all the everything is in 30 minutes to an hour a day. It's not a lot of time. So what has resulted is that teachers like to stay late, and they have kind of made it like a thing of like, oh, well, I'm so dedicated to the children because I stay so late. Don't be one of those people. In order to have a successful side hustle and career, you need to have boundaries for when you're gonna leave, how long you're gonna work, and all of that stuff. So personally, I leave at the end of my contract hours. At 4:15, I am no longer officially on the clock. I'm also no longer getting paid, because teachers are salary, which means that if you stay extra, you do not get paid for it. You actually get paid less per hour in the long run, so don't do that. And at 4:15, I leave and I go home. And when I get home, I do not work on stuff for school. I do not think about school. There's a little bit of a blur because I do make products for elementary music teachers, but I am very specific about, like, I'm not checking my email. I do not write lesson plans. I do not grade papers. Like, none of that comes home with me. Because when I get home, I have things to do at home. I have both like the normal home stuff, and then I also have side hustle stuff to do. So if I'm not leaving work on time, or if I'm bringing home a bunch of work, then I don't have time to work on this other stuff. So I can't do that. I cannot stay late, and I cannot bring home work, because then I cannot work on my business, and I will not get the house clean or make the dinner or those things that like we need to function. So in your life, you may not be able to leave, at a certain magical time. You might not be able to get it done by 4:15, I understand. Maybe you decide that you're gonna stay till 5, and then at 5 you leave and you do not bring work home, or whatever it is that you're gonna do. But just make boundaries of what you're okay with and what you're not okay with doing with your full-time job. And once you have those set in stone and really set in place, then you'll have an easier time adjusting and planning your schedule, and you'll also be a little bit less stressed, because you won't be like staying extra late this day and then not getting all these things done, and like it just creates a giant mess. So set boundaries at work. Don't feel bad about leaving on time. Do it, and do not bring work home. And let's go to number 2. Number 2 is very similar, and that is to know what your priorities are and detach a little bit from whatever's not your priority. So what I mean by this is, know what your priorities are. Some people have a side hustle just because, it's fun. Some people have a side hustle because they want, you know, a little bit of extra money. And some people have a side hustle that they want to turn into their full-time business. Those are very different perspectives. And so you need to know which one of those you are. Are you planning to stay in your full-time job forever? Or are you planning to take your, you know, side hustle and make it a full-time gig? You know, or are you happy keeping your side hustle as a side hustle? There's not like a right answer or anything. You just need to decide what you would like to do in your life. And once you decide, then you can have your priorities straight. So for me, I love teaching. I love teaching. But I know that in the long term, I'm gonna wanna go with my business. I don't know when, I don't know how long it'll be from now, but I know that in the back of my mind, that's where I'm headed. And because I know that, I have a little bit of a detachment from school. Not in like a I don't care kind of way, but just in a this isn't the end all be all. This is not, you know, the entirety of who I am. And I have other things to do and other things to worry about. So I can't worry about this all the time. Yes, I do care. Yes, I want to be the best at what I do. Yes, I work really hard. Yes, I love the kids. Yes, I work the whole time I'm there. But I know that when it comes down to it, I need to do what's best for my business over what's best for teaching. So again, I leave at 4:15 whether or not the work gets done. And if I don't have time to get the work done, then I leave anyway, because frankly, if I don't have time to get work done, that means that there's too many things on my plate. And so there shouldn't be that many things on my plate. That's what that means. Because if you are paid to work 40 hours and you're working more than 40 hours, that means they're giving you more work than you can do in 40 hours and they're not paying you for it. And I'm not here for that. Again, I love teaching. I love the kids, but I know that I need to do what I can to make sure that the business is my top priority. So I work on my business in the morning before I leave. I work on my business when I come home, and that's my main priority. I, you know, make sure that I'm not super exhausted so that I can work on my business. And I just have those priorities in place. I make sure that I go to bed on time so that I can get up super early so that I can work on my business. And I just have all those things in place and in check to make sure that my priorities are where I want them to be. Along with that detachment, this is something I got actually rather recently out of the book Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. So good, highly recommend. I'll link it down below. But in this, he talks about how you should be slightly detached from other things because your emotions and your feelings shouldn't be wrapped up in your work. Or he even talks about, you know, your relationships and all that kind of stuff. And it's not that you don't care, but it's that you realize, you know, I am a teacher, I teach for a living, but that's not the end all be all, and that's not the only thing that matters. And so if I have a bad day, I don't want it to completely ruin everything and completely affect me and all of that stuff. And so I really work on making sure that that doesn't happen, and just having a slight detachment where I'm like, okay, I leave at this time, I'm leaving everything there, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not worried about it, it's in the past. So having a slight detachment is actually really healthy for you mentally, because then you're more in charge of your emotions. And that's how I want you to think of it. Not as a I don't care, but just as like a, you know, this isn't the end of the world. This is not all of who I am. And, you know, your whole worth does not need to be wrapped up in your job, basically. Moving on to number 3, and that is having a minimum viable product. So what I mean by this is, what is the absolute minimum that you need to do either at work or in your business in order for things to run? Now, you don't have to do just the minimum, but I want you to know what the minimum is. So for me, I know that I have a blog post that goes out every other week, okay? And I have a couple of extra videos that I typically post in addition to that. And so I know those numbers, and I have them written down where I'm like, this is what absolutely has to happen. Like, I have to write an email every week, okay, to my email list. I have to do that. That is on my have to list. I do not have to post on Instagram every day. I do not have to make a new product every week. And so I know what things I need to do and what things would be nice to do. And although I want to do those things that are nice to do, knowing what you have to do helps you to prioritize things a little bit better. And especially if you're having a bad day, one of my favorite exercises is if I'm having a bad day and I don't want to do anything, because I did let the kids get to me today and they were irritating because, you know, kids are irritating. Like it's just a thing. I love them. They're so much fun, but man, they can get on your nerves, especially when there's 30 of them. And so I don't even remember what I'm talking about. Oh, when I don't want to do anything, I think, okay, what are the things that I have to get done today? Like what cannot wait until tomorrow? And I'll write those things down, and then those are the things I work on. Although there are things that are nice to work on and I would like to work on, if I don't get to them, it's okay, as long as I get to that minimum viable product. This also goes for your actual products, because some of us, you know, especially teachers, we get caught up in the perfectionistic tendencies and we want everything to be amazing and everything to be perfect, and we want to include 50,000 different things. I get it. I do it. I want to have all the things and all the options and just everything available. And because of that, sometimes I don't post something that just needs to be posted, whether that's a video or a blog post or a product or whatever. Don't do that. Know what your minimum viable product is and go ahead and start getting it out. You don't need to have 50,000 things. Yes, it's nice. Yes, it's helpful, but you don't have to. And especially if you're on Teachers Pay Teachers or on Etsy or any of those things, you can change things as you go. You don't have to have it figured out at the beginning. So go ahead and do it. Go ahead and post it. Go ahead and get started. And then you can change things as you go. Having those things in mind will help you to prioritize all of the things you need to do in order to help you, you know, just do a little bit better. All right, number 4 is not going to come as a shock at all, and that is have a work schedule. I understand that a lot of people have crazy lives and a lot going on. I usually do when there's not COVID that's, you know, sucking up all my choir time, but there is a lot to be said for having a set work schedule, because the thing about your business is, oh, and I'm talking about business, by the way. The thing about your business, the thing about your side hustle is that if you actually want it to grow, then you need to put in consistent time, because you need to have time to make the products, make the videos, make the blog, you know, whatever you're doing, you have to have that time to do it and to get better and to, you know, have more things that you can do and get under your belt and get ready. And you'll never have that if you don't have set work hours. If you work, you know, 3 hours this week and 20 hours this week and 0 hours this week, like it's just, everything's gonna be all over the place and it's be so wonky and difficult, and you won't have a routine, and it's just gonna be a struggle. Versus if you say, okay, I'm gonna work for an hour every day or 2 hours a day, or I'm gonna work for 3 hours this day on Tuesday nights and 3 hours on Saturday mornings. Great. Whatever it is, just pick something and make it consistent and get that consistency, get that habit under your belt and make it a habit so that it's not difficult. Just make it so it's something you do all the time so that it's not difficult, so that you have the time to make your business better, to make the products, to make the videos, to whatever it is that you want to do. You're putting in the time and the effort so that you get better and you have the time to produce the stuff that's gonna make you money. If you're on YouTube, for example, it's really awkward to sit in a room and talk to yourself. Super awkward, especially if you're not a teacher and used to, you know, sitting in a room talking to yourself. Teacher jokes. Anyway, so it's really awkward, and you have to get better at, you know, the staging and the words that you're saying, and you have to get better at talking to the camera and looking into the lens instead of looking at yourself like this. This is looking at myself. This is the camera. Myself, camera. All of these things you have to do, and that comes from practice, and that comes from working, and that comes from effort. And so if you have that practice, you have that time to get better, then you will get better. I, for example, film videos every single Wednesday, every single week, because I need to post videos, and I have multiple YouTube channels because I'm a crazy person. So it just has to happen. And so that gives me the time to practice. It gives me the time to refine my art, and it also gives me the time to make the videos that I can then post that will help my YouTube channels grow. Now, do you need a YouTube channel? No. Do you need to have multiple YouTube channels? Definitely not. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. But all of that to be said, having the time to put your effort into your craft, into your business, into whatever you're going to do is going to give you the time to produce what you need to produce to make the money, and also give you the practice and you the time and space to get better, which is ultimately, again, going to make you more money. Number 5 is one I talk about all the time, and that is never, ever, 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 ever sit down without a plan. The literal worst thing you can do as a side hustler is sit down and be like, what should I do today? What should I do? No. Because what you're doing is wasting time. That's exactly what you're doing. And then you get stuck on like, oh, well, I could do this. Oh, well, I could do this. Oh, I could do this. And by the time you know it, your work time is over. Instead, pick a day, maybe once a month, maybe once a week, that you say, okay, I'm going to work on this on Monday, and I'm going to work on this on Tuesday, and have a plan so that when you sit down, it's not like, what, you know, oh, the worst, oh my gosh, the worst thing you can do when you're a blogger is to sit down in front of your computer screen and be like, what should I write about today? Because you're not gonna come up with any good answers, and what you're gonna do is waste a bunch of time and try to decide what you want to do, and you're just gonna waste the whole time, and then you have no time, and it's just a whole waste. Instead, sit down maybe once a week, maybe once a month, and decide on Monday I'm gonna do this, on Tuesday I'm gonna do this, on Wednesday I'm gonna do this. And so that you have a plan so that when you sit down and you know exactly what you're gonna do. For example, this morning I was writing blog posts, and I already had decided when I was gonna work, that I was going to work also, that I was going to write a blog post, and I even had decided what blog post I was going to write. So I sat down and I just wrote, and I was able to crank out a blog post because I already knew what I was going to do. I didn't have to make a bunch of decisions. I just went for it. There's a famous quote, I believe it's Benjamin Franklin, who said, for every 1 minute you spend planning, you save 10 minutes. So if you spend like 10 minutes at the beginning of the week planning out your week, you just saved 100 minutes of not knowing what to do. So congratulations, good job. And you know, have that down. Really, if you've never done this, like, do it. It makes a big difference. Usually for me on like Sunday, I'll sit down during the day sometime, usually in front of the TV. Like, it doesn't have to be a big thing, and I just write down, you know, what I want to do each day so that I have a plan and I know what to do. On the flip side, if you would prefer to have, you know, like certain days that are dedicated to things, like on Mondays I write blog posts and on Tuesdays I edit those blog posts, whatever, that's fine. You can do that too, and that'll also help you. Just kind of how you want to do it and how consistent you want to be with all the things that you are doing, and also how many things you are doing is going to affect whether you want to do that or not. Like I mentioned, every Wednesday I sit down and I film videos, and so I always know what I'm going to do on Wednesdays, and I don't have to think about it. I do have to think about what videos to film, but it's not a shock, it's not a surprise, and I have that time to dedicate to my YouTube channel so that it can grow. Number 6 is that when you make a plan, you need to be really realistic about your plan. As side hustlers, we have full-time jobs and businesses on the side, and there's just a lot going on. And then on top of that, like, again, you still have to clean the house and you still have to make the dinner. And it's like, really, you want to eat again? And there's just a lot going on. And because of that, you need to be realistic about how much you can do. This is something I really learned last year, because I would say, you know, oh, I want to do this and this and this and this, and I wouldn't get anything done. And then I would feel bad about it, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I didn't get anything done. And then I started looking at it and I would be like, Becca, there's no way you could have gotten that done and also, you know, slept or gone to work. And so the problem wasn't that I wasn't being productive. I was working really hard. The problem was that I wasn't planning efficiently, and I was planning more than I could actually do. And because of that, I wouldn't finish my to-do list, and then I would feel bad about the not finishing of the to-do list, and it was just a whole vicious cycle. Instead, now I really think through how much I can actually do. So like I said, I actually work for an hour in the morning and like an hour and a half in the afternoon typically. And so I know that in that hour, well, I say an hour, I guess it's more like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I don't know. In that time in the morning, I can typically get one thing done. So I can write a blog post, as long as it's, you know, not super long. The one this morning was super long, so it took like 3 days. Or I can write, you know, a couple of emails, and I know how many emails I can write in that time. Or I can, you know, edit however many videos, or I can do these things, but I can only do like one of them. I can't edit the videos and make the products and post the products and do the, no. I can do one thing. In the afternoon, I have that, you know, hour and a half. It's a little bit of a longer chunk. I can still probably do one thing, maybe two. But because I know that about myself, I think like, okay, in the morning, this is my one thing. In the afternoon, this is my one or two things. And that's all. And that's all we're doing. And that's all that's gonna happen. And nothing else is gonna happen because that's all we got. And since I have really like put the effort in, I've been able to plan more efficiently. And that has helped me to feel better about how much I get done. Because I work really hard and I want that to be reflected. But sometimes, you know, you gotta be realistic. Gotta be realistic, because otherwise you're just hurting yourself. Another thing that I do is I've started, if I, you know, I'll say, here's what I know I can do. And if I want to do something extra, then I do like a line, like a dash, and then I write it so that I can see that that's like an extra thing and it's not a necessary thing. Again, that minimum viable product. What do you actually have to do versus what would you like to do? Figure that out, have that ready, and be realistic with your planning so that you aren't setting yourself up for failure. Along with your planning, having rituals and routines will make all of the difference. Again, on Wednesdays, I sit down and I film videos, and I know that's gonna happen, and because of that, it makes life really easy because I know exactly what's gonna happen. I'm expecting it, and it's not a shock, and I never get to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't film any of these videos, because like I sit down every Wednesday. I have the time because I put the time in, and I have that ritual, I have that routine. That's the thing that I do. In the past, I have set up my week with lots of routines where like on Mondays I would write blog posts, and on Tuesdays I would edit. I do things a little bit differently now, but I still like to have some routines and rituals and procedures. One thing I did last year is I went through and all of those, you know, those like random things in your business that you like never have time for, I gave them a time. And so I assigned every Friday has like a certain thing that I do, and the last week of the month has a certain thing each day. And so I don't work on projects, I don't work on blog posts, I don't work on any of those things on that last week of the month. On the last week of the month, I work on Pinterest and scheduling pins, and I work on getting my Facebook groups, you know, like scheduled out and like stuff like that, that I just, you know, it just has to be done, but it's not like a big deal. And I can usually get them done in the morning in that little chunk of time, one thing a day. So all of that to say, if you have those extra things or you need a ritual or routine, get those routines in place. Having routines for working is one of the most effective things. So both routines in like, this is where I sit down and when I sit down and this is what I'm doing, and also routines for like having those recurring tasks that need to get done are gonna help in your business. But have rituals and have routines. And my very last one is number 8, and that is when you are planning, make sure you plan for rest. A lot of us start our side hustles as, you know, fun extra things that we want to do, and sometimes they get to the point where they don't feel fun and like things you want to do. Sometimes I don't want to write blog posts, or I don't want to film videos, or I really don't want to edit videos. That's usually the problem with my business, is I'm like, oh, I don't want to edit these. I love the filming. I don't love the editing so much. But as your business grows and goes on, you want to make sure that you're actually planning rest. Now this might be, you know, something I need to say for me and the other couple of workaholics out there, but I know myself, and I know that I will work myself to the bone and just work all day, all completely, like never get up and be like, oh, look, it's midnight. How did that happen? So I have to schedule in rest, and I have to schedule in fun things, and I have to schedule, I know it's really sad, but I need to make time for that in my life. And so things that I do to help with that are in the afternoon when I come home before I do work, I sit down and I read. And sometimes I play my cello, and I have a little bit of time to myself before I start my business and working on that. I also have been trying to cut my business off at a certain time. So I have like, here's the time that I'm not gonna work after this anymore, and I'm gonna relax. I've been trying not to work quite as much on the weekends. So usually I say one day of the weekend has to be work free. That works for me because it allows room for changes. You know, when I was like, I will not work on the weekend, then I felt like I was behind. And so having, you know, one day of the weekend is rest, and then the other day can be work. That is kind of like a nice compromise for me. And so just a couple of these little things that I have built in really recently, like embarrassingly recently, that have really helped me to feel better and to just like have more energy and be more excited and want to do things. Because if you're a side hustler, you're basically working 2 jobs, and that's a lot, and it can be exhausting. So you want to make sure you're doing everything to help make sure that you're getting what you need, both in rest, relaxation, and fun. Your business doesn't have to be your only source of fun. You are allowed to have other kinds of fun. I promise. It's allowed. All right, friends, I hope that that was helpful. I would love to hear any of your tips for, you know, what you should do as a side hustler to not lose your mind, help you stay sane. So leave those down in the comments for me. And if you like this video, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. And if you are on Instagram, come follow me on Instagram. It's at becca.e.davis. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye.